Satsang House. So the weekdays we've been having ongoing sessions on Bhagavad Gita, looking at it from the Advaitic perspective. So if you have any questions, Friday is the day when we have a discussion space for Bhagavad Gita, but it's not just restricted to Bhagavad Gita. So if you have any questions that you want to ask Bendoji, please raise your hands and come up. I've also pasted the links for all the previous talks available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, where they are cataloged and you can access them. You can also access them as replays in Clubhouse. So if you listen to them and have any questions, you can come up and ask. The hand raising and chat window is open.
Namaste.
Namaste. Actually, what happened was that Kuldipji sent some messages to me to be passed on to you, which I will not actually. Okay. But what I thought was that what we should probably discuss is the fundamental this thing that basically represents Kashmiri Shaivism. So what they believe is that in Kashmiri Shaivism is that the real enlightenment is when you are able to play with life in some way, whatever that means. Otherwise, it will only be in the mind and it will be intellectual, right? So that's what his main claim is. So maybe at a very high level, if you can tell your ideas on how you kind of looked at it when somebody encountered like that to you, Jivandra. That may help everybody. Anyway, the room is recorded. I'll request him to, listen to the room later.
Okay. See, basically what Kuldeep was talking on that day was, he is talking from Shabda Brahman point of view. That is the sound as a representation of Brahman. So he was talking about A, E, U, etc. The vowels and the consonants and then things like that. But we should understand one thing. From Advaitic point of view, what he is taking from his point of view or the Kashmir Shaivism point of view is a method which is there. I am not denying or disputing that. But what I am insisting on that is that the name and the form and utility of the names or alphabets, etc., do not comprise of our experiences. It only takes care of the experiences in the transactional phenomena, empirical form, where we use names and forms. For names and forms, names we have the words, for words we have the alphabets. Why Shabda Brahman is used, or the Brahman, Shabda Brahman is being referred in the methodology, is that all experiences are narrated through words. This narration is the sum total of what is called awareness, which is as per them, is the totality of Brahman. But that is not what Advaita talks about. Advaita talks about all experiences, including the experience of the dream and the deep sleep. And there are no words applicable in the state of deep sleep. Yet, it is all of us have got an experience of deep sleep, which cannot be denied. Not only we human beings, even animals go through the act of sleep or that state of nothingness. So when we talk about the totality of the picture, there is a waking, dream and deep sleep. But if you are depending only on the Shabda Brahman or the words or the alphabets per se. We are restricting only our waking world where these words have got any meaning and any utility of those words for explaining our experiences. So as for Advaita, that is not complete. But Advaita is not denying it, because even when we say Sarvam Khalidam Brahma, so there is a word Sarvam to indicate all experiences. And in the experiences, there is a subject, object, and the act of experiencing. And that is what is called the Sarvam. But that is only referring to the waking. What happens in the deep sleep is that we cannot say there the word Sarvam. But the waker includes the deep sleep as his experience, which is not correct. Advaita differentiates that. It is not a waker's experience that we are having in deep sleep. Deep sleep is where the waker is not present. And that state in the Chandogya Upanishad says that having become one with the pure existence or consciousness, we cannot know that we have achieved the state of existence and consciousness, because there the knowing factor using internal instruments of mind and intellect is not possible, because both mind and intellect are not functioning in the deep sleep. But when we wake up, we have an absence to which we have to account. That I went to sleep at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the night, and then I had some dream, and then some dreamlessness where I call as deep sleep. So this all is being thought about as my experiences by the ego in the waking. But that ego is not present in the dream nor in the deep sleep. So when you are not present, how can you account it for? This is what the Advaita is asking about. Therefore, Advaitic approach is a total experiential approach, whereas the Shabda Brahman of the Kashmir Shaivism is only on the totality of experiences of the waker, where words matters. So this is what I am talking about. Because, see, the moment I start explaining this to Kuldeep, he sticks to his pet idea of the Kashmir Shaivism. And then he is not able to see it from the Advaitic point of view. That is where the difference comes. But I have no problem on him referring to the Shabda Brahman, but it is restricted only to the waking.
So, Binduji, basically he seems to say that there are two kind of like analysis, right? One is what we do through mind, right? Meaning our understanding and everything comes into that. And second is through experiencing. Now, because one becomes the reference for the other, if I take the experiencing as the reference for my information, what is happening in my mind, okay, then the whole thing is inverted. Then it seems to me that the Kashmiri Shaivism has made the life as a reference as opposed to the knowledge as reference. Now, another, why I see some mystery here, because when I read U.G. Krishnamurti, he says that when the thought process stops even for a moment, that continuity is lost, and then the body goes into a toss, meaning it becomes decentralized. There is nothing which unites all the senses of the body. All the senses work independently, and he talks such a language, which of course is purely in the experiential way, which you of course call it as only in the waking state, because it cannot exist in any other state, right? So it seems to me that basically it is between which is the reference. Okay, because if you take this as a reference, then that becomes related to this. If you take experiential reality as a reference, then obviously the knowledge or this whatever we think about it just becomes a kind of a thought, like, it's just a knowledge which is being thought in the mind, which is what we call as an intellectual. Now, of course, like, when somebody says that, when you point out that, the three states are seen from another state actually. Okay, this is what is given by Gaudapada also.
Yes.
Which is what makes sense to me. And that's how I am like out of this relative kind of reference principles, right? Okay, then, there's really something which is above all the three states of existence. That's how I have kind of like, come to this thing. But their this thing claim is that because certain things happen to you, to the body or to the mind, and that becomes their, the so-called proof, basically, right? And I think they are convinced much more because of those proofs, which are in more experiential nature. I think this is a difference that always keeps coming up in many discussions. And
I don't deny for it, because if you are taking about experience of living, where even Sri Aurobindo says the supramental and the evolution of human being is from the point of view of life being considered as real. When you are taking life considered as real, then you have to take that where is your experiences taking place and how are you recording it. Don't analyze, just analyze the experiences alone. In the experiences, there are definitely the subject, object and the connection between them. Or the subject with experience and the content of the experience, which is depending upon the words or the names and the ideation or forms, etc. This they are talking about is what Advaita calls it as manovritti, or the thoughts in the intellectual or the mental level. There the intellectual and mental are not separate for them, it's only one. Whereas Advaita differentiate between an intellectual level and the mental level. That is why we have the Manomaya Kosha and Vijnanamaya Kosha separate. When they do this analysis, they are looking at it as an experiencer of these intellectual and mental experiences. They are not able to move out of it and look at it as a witness which is beyond the waking, dream and deep sleep, which is the Gaudapada thing or the Asparsha Yoga or the Sakshi Matra. That aspect is only available in the Advaita, and it is true in the sense that we know we have waking, dream and deep sleep. So the knower of a thing has to be different from the known. When I know waking is there, I am not the waker. In the waking, I am experiencing the waking. And the waking, when I know that I had a dream, I am the one who remembers about the dream. And that too is recorded in the memory in the mind. And the deep sleep, where there is no mind, but some sort of a recollection of absence, of no content in it, is remembered again by the mind, which when it comes to the waking, that mind is not able to experience or explain what was its own state when it was experiencing nothing. It is not able to tell. So there is a entity or a consciousness which is aware of the transition from waking to dream to deep sleep and the three, and the knower of that has to be different from the known of waking, dream and deep sleep. This is what Gaudapada's method is. And that they are not accepting because they don't value deep sleep and dream in any way. They only think that the waking is only reality. But the waking reality also, from the child till you develop memory, then what do you account for that? Did you have experiences or you didn't have experiences? And when you lose memory, either by dementia or Alzheimer's or for murcha, when you get zoomed or when you are in anesthesia, you say that, you don't have experiences of that missing period. So when you are calling it as an experience of the life, these missing periods, when you cannot account for it, either as a child till the mind develops, or when you are lost memory, either by anesthesia or psychedelic drugs or, dementia, etc. When these things are not able to be recorded, what is the experience will you relate to when you cannot even remember or you don't have even a knowledge of that experience? Do you mean to say that that should not be counted? It is same as saying that the dream should not be counted or deep sleep should not be counted. That is where Advaita is differing with them.
No, if they claim, for example, that it is a practice or sadhana which takes you to different experiences, possibilities, and in the ordinary life, you will just have very standard experiences or maybe non-experiences, right, in a way. So like that, they'll probably counter that, I think.
No, that is where Advaita very clearly says that, especially in the Kenopanishad, if you look into the mantras, it asks, what is that which this mind is able to mind about things? What is that with which the eyes are able to see things? Like that, when it is asking, there is an answer given by the Rishi saying that, Pratibodha viditam matam amrutatvahi vindate. In every experience, there is the subject, object, and the experiencing taking place. But when they are keeping on changing, that is why the Pratibodham word is used. When that is keeping changing, the waking person changes to dreamer person changes to deep sleep as the subject is concerned. As far as the object or the content is concerned, the waking world is not available for the dreamer, the dream world is not available for the waker, or both are not available for the deep sleeper. So the contents are exclusively for the waking, dream, and deep sleep. So the subject is not constant, the objects are not, or the contents are not constant, but experience as recorded by the waker, dreamer, and deep sleeper is known at some level of consciousness or awareness, which remembers the waking, dream, and deep sleep. What is that when you can account it for? This is what the difference which is saying that even when then, that is the time when Advaita says that consciousness which is aware of the waker, dreamer, and deep sleep is present even in the waking, is the same which is present in the dreamer, is present in the deep sleep also. That is why it is able to say that the three changes happening is known to me. Therefore, that me is the fourth one, Chaturtham Manyande Sa Atma Savitneya. That is the fourth one which is present even in waking, dream, and deep sleep. This aspect has not been able to digest by those people.
Yeah, and I think another big problem is that they have to assume time as true. And then if they really take time as true, then it's infinite on both sides. And then it becomes a logical inconsistent kind of thing. Because
Yes.
if the time is infinite, then so many times you would have had so many different experiences. Why would you want to have again and again? So it cannot really be the objective also in that case.
Yes.
Whereas Advaita solves the time problem, right? So that is like, time comes into play only when in waking or in dream, for example. Okay. So otherwise there is a concept of time itself cannot exist.
Yeah, time is not considered as a reality by Advaita, because what is the time as a waker is not the time as a dreamer. And that deep sleep, the time is totally absent.
Not there. Yeah.
Right? Time and space is not there. Yet, you cannot deny your own existence. Your own consciousness, but there is no contents which the waker experiences or the dreamer experiences. That is totally absent. But at the same time, the knowing of nothingness, which technically speaking, as I was always explaining, the nothingness cannot be known, but the knowing of nothingness is referred as knowingness is there, but there is nothing to be known. In the absence of something to be known, we call it as knowing of nothingness. But really speaking, it is not knowing of nothingness. It is knowing its own nature or its own beingness. Because it alone was there. Sa ekaha. He was alone there. It is just like if the sun alone was there in the sky and no dust or particle or stars or moon or anything, nothing was there. Can the sun shine anything? No, it will be still dark, pitch dark everywhere. But at the same time, the sun's nature of shining will be there. So the sun will be shining as knowing and shining are becoming one and the same. But there is nothing to be shined upon or the content for shining which it can enlighten. In the absence of that, it will only see darkness everywhere. That you cannot see darkness, but yet it is the usage which you have to use it that way. That will be the state which we are in the deep sleep. The Kuldeep's problem is that he doesn't wait to listen to all these things.
Yeah. No, that is okay. That's like not. But I thought because he sent me messages and all to be passed on to you. So even the Gita that they have, which I have not passed on to you, But I thought maybe I'll take on his behalf just this thing, so that he can.
No problem. No, in fact, Prakash asked him to come on Friday for this discussions. So anyway.
Thanks, Binduji.
Thanks, Vinod. Namaste, Socrates.
Yeah, hi, Binduji. So,
hi.
I have some question just to see your point of view from Advaitic perspective. So, we all
slightly louder, please.
Yes, yeah.
So can you hear me, Binduji?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah. So, as your perspective from Advaitic point of view about certain questions. The first one is, as you said, that there is a fourth viewer, right, for all these three states, and that is the ultimate consciousness. From the practical perspective, we tend to hear so many words like pure consciousness, and then we hear the word ego, and then we hear the word mind, and then vasanas and everything. So one gave rise to another. We all, as you say, yeah, true consciousness is there. At the same time, creation also happened. There could be some reason for that. So if you can simply try to explain what are all these terms, what gave rise to what, and how one affects another, be it the pure consciousness and then the ego and the mind and the vasanas, everything, right? What gave rise to what, and what is the relationship between all of them with respect to your Advaitic perspective? Thanks.
What's your name?
Teja.
Teja, yeah. You are in short asking me to give a capsule called Advaita. These questions will be required to be answered if one has to study the entire Advaita. Since you have asked the question, I will limit myself only to the question which you have asked. But I will not be able to, go further deeper into it.
Sure, definitely, yeah.
So, the ego is the association of the mind with a set of beliefs that it is the body-mind complex individuality with the physical form called human being. And the experiences what it goes through the sense organs, which is being codified or, made into a unified experience at the mental level. And that ownership is called the ego. That I am the one who is knowing. But actually it is a function of the, what we call it as andhakaranam, or the inner instrument, which has got 4 aspects of it. The same instrument with 4 aspects. Mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta. Mind is the seat of emotions, feelings, etc. The buddhi is the reasoning, logic and analytical nature of the mind, same mind. But when it is doing, not emotionally or feeling wise, but it is doing analytical reasoning and logic, etc., it is called the intellect. The 4th one is chitta, which is called a seat of memory. Every experience when we go through, it becomes a spot of memory of the experience which is recorded by the mind, and that recorded portion is called the chitta. And the 3rd one, which we call it the ahankara or the ego, is the owner who, or the ownership feeling of the same mind, which owns the memories, which owns the intellect, which owns the feelings, etc. But all as experienced by the body and the sense organs. And therefore the individuality is what is called that. And it is that ahankara which is having the feeling that anything related to the body is mine, or anything related to the body is me, or my experience, or my relationship, etc. This 4 aspects to it is called the mano, buddhi, ahankara, chitta. Now coming to vasanas, vasanas are nothing but latent impressions in the chitta which decides the mind and the intellect when it starts functioning. Because mind and intellect, especially intellect, has a tendency to refer to the memory from the Shyam Kumar, can you mute? When it is referring to the intellectual aspects of it, it needs to refer to some information for logic and analysis and reasoning. That what is being taken from the chitta is now from the impressions which the chitta has collected. And that is what is called the vasana. And vasana is that which feeds the intellect and the mind when it is in a reactive form. When the inputs come, there is no reaction. They are the actions. But based on the input, when they reciprocate, it takes out information from the memory, which is the vasanas at that time, is called the vasanas. And based on that, the liking, disliking, hatred, anger, all those feelings of human beings, or even while doing the analysis of logic thing, whether I am doing right or wrong, all those decisions are being made is because of the feeding of the information from the chitta side. So that is why it is called the vasana at that time. These are the terms which you asked me now.
Thanks, Vendoy. It's very clear. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So nobody else is coming?
Yeah, it looks like this people are hesitant to come up. So, Binoji, can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Srinivas is coming up. So, since we have been going deeper into the Sthita Prajna qualities and the practice and the appropriation of right knowledge or right insight. So, in that, you always mention that slippage back to the away from the Sthita Prajna is mastered in different ways, and you talked about the anger in the last session. So
Yes.
with reference to awareness of nothingness, I want to talk about how that gets reified and how one prevents reification. Like, do we consolidate a worldview or do we let that unfold? I don't know if you're understanding what I'm trying to say.
Not exactly.
No, is that
What?
quality? Is the quality of Sthita Prajna? How does one not reify that? Reification means holding it as a concept, or
See,
is it just? No, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. See, the concept, any concept is born out of inputs which you cannot verify. When you verify it, it becomes a confirmation. The concept becomes a confirmation. Thereafter, you don't call it as a concept, but rather as a fact. A concept can be a fact or may not be a fact. It can be a fact only after if it is verified and proved to be undisturbed or unchallenged. But if it gets challenged, you may accept it as a fact, but when you are challenged and you find a better thing, then that is replacing the earlier fact. So the earlier fact which you thought till then becomes either an insignificant one or wrong one. This process of replacing that concept by modification is how the scientific world is proceeding in the ordinary world. That is the place where concepts have got a lot of importance. In the case of Advaita, even though you may begin with a concept, the lab and the testing both are our own inner experience of being the individual, not the individuality ego, but being the I amness. That I do exist, I am there, I am in, that I is at the concept level. But when you learn it from the conceptual means of teachers and the Shruti Vakya, Upanishad words, etc., you start deploying it onto your own experiences. And when you do that, till then it is following the same principle of scientific experiences, scientific method of what you call verification method. And when the verification is not external in nature, with empirical values and set of parameters which can be drawn, because there is something different from when you do an internal verification. It is our own experience of beingness or consciousness, or these are words which are used even for external knowing in the mind level, etc. But when you are going through the Upanishad, there are indicative words using the empirical words to go beyond the level of the empirical words. This shift, what happens after that, where you know that empirical words have only limitation up to this. Beyond that, it is my first person experience, where these words have no function to play or not applicable. There, you cannot deny your own being or existence, but at the same time, you have no words to explain that. That is why it is considered a concept can still be explained and verified and used words. When you do not have the concept, words and everything, but you cannot deny the existence of that experience, is when you know that this aspect of the self is not a conceptual knowledge, but it's a reality of my own personal being. Because we are not depending upon the conceptual words which the Upanishad is indicating us towards to look beyond. For example, this famous saying, Yato vacho nivartande aprapya manasa saha, where the words fail to explain and the mind returns without, explaining it. So these two words or example, there are so many say, Prajnanam Brahma, when you hear that Tattvamasi, etc. There are many such experiences with Vijñādaram Arekena Vijaniyat. There are so many other Upanishadic words which I am not going to quote here because then I'll have to explain those words and their meanings. So then what happens is that you come to a state of replacing your concept with because your own experience. It's a fact because you are verified it now yourself. Until you verify that yourself, yes, what you are saying is it may appear to be a concept. Until you drop the dependencies of the teaching and the words of the Upanishad to go to your own experience, there you become your own what you call verifier, or what you call the stamp of approval is from your own experience. That is the time when the concepts will be dropped and you will know that you are beyond all the concepts, even where the Upanishads becomes a concept or the words of concept. So that is the state where one has to reach, which we call it as the shift from the concept to the verified approver of that facts of statements. And then you don't find that is what Shankaracharya also wrote, no? Where the dependency of the words of the Vedas also become useless after that. Because you become the Rishi whose words will become another form of a statement of a Upanishad. Because it is your words and the words of the Rishi are not going to be too separate. Because you are experienced it. This has to happen. Then only you can say that you are moved out of the concept to verification. This is where the Shravana Manana Nididhyasana has to play the role. Unless that Nididhyasana happens, Nididhyasana is firm conviction of what you have heard, mentally assimilated and questioned and verified everything. And you know that these words cannot be the literal words which is in the transactional words, but being in transactional world, the dependency on them is very much there. but they are indicative, not literally the same. Then you become beyond the concept.
Thank you, Binduji. Very, very clear and deep insight there. That from concept of fact through confirmation, right? So, yes. So even though we start off, because a lot of the beginning, Socrates has asked for a book. So when we begin the journey, it starts in books and concepts and practices, and then comes the insight, right? So the insight is the prajna. So refining that insight, where the confirmation is to a completion, nididhyasana, the fact, then that is the assurance of lack of reification. Yes, thank you, Binduji. I think Srinivas is here.
Socrates can read a book called Aparokshanubhuti. It is available on internet, and there are set of classes which I had taken on Aparokshanubhuti, which is available either in YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcast. So read the book, listen to the lectures, then the clarity will be much better for you rather than just reading the book.
Thanks.
Thank you, Teja. Namaste, Srini.
Namaste, Binduji.
Namaste.
Quick question. Is the words Sthitaprajna and Jnani are the same word, right? Both are synonyms or any difference?
Yeah, both are synonym.
So then, the Sthitaprajna has become Sthitaprajna with Atma Bodha, right? Like listening to Tattvamasi kind of Vakya. Now,
Only if he has that knowledge of Atma,
no.
then he can have his prajna sthita.
Correct.
Unless that, if it doesn't happen, his prajna cannot be sthita.
Yeah.
That nishtha won't happen.
So then, how is the connection between, so when Arjuna is asking Sthitaprajna ka bhasha, when the lakshanas are determined, how these both are related, because actually that is the important thing that happened is the bodha, but this how are that part, what is the joining condition, Binduji?
Joining what and what?
Sthitaprajna lakshanas. So this is for actually to practice, right? Karma yoga, these lakshanas, which are being enumerated, like pull your indriyas into yourself, or whatever is being described. So that seems, at least sounds like a karma yoga for me, is it not?
It is not karma yoga at the beginning stage. In the beginning stage, it will come. Krishna will say, Yat kurusha tat kurusha madarpanam. That will be the starting place. And then, when his chitta shuddhi takes place, that is the time when he will know more and more about the Atma Swarupa, which Krishna has been talking in the beginning of the with advice to Arjuna. Nainam chandandi shastrani, nainam dakhati pavakaha. And then before that, najayate mriyate va katachit. All those statements which is there is the experience or the knowledge of a sthita prajna. But later when he came to the states of, the karma yoga, buddhi yoga, dhananjaya, and then he moves to karma yoga. From the buddhi yoga, first is the jnanis, sthita prajna, then he came to what you call the buddhi yoga, then he came to karma yoga. And then toward the end, achala buddhi, when he referred, that is the time when Arjuna is able to link between the four, that the necessity is prajna pratishtita, that is sthita prajna nature. So when Krishna is talking about the sthita prajna bhasha or the lakshanas of sthita prajna, he is giving it for the purpose of understanding that such a person will be established in the truth. And his behavior will be like this. So when he is giving that behavioral pattern, it is not for Karma Yoga. It is for knowing what doing Karma Yoga you can achieve, rather than giving that as a method of a Karma Yogi's method of acting. The Vasana Nigraha, Indriya Samyamya, Aste Manasachana. So all those statements are not for the Karma Yoga. That is for the Chitta Shuddhi. And that will lead to the Sthita Pratnya Bhasha, Sthita Pratnya Lakshana. But before that, he will be talking about Karma Yoga. That is why Arjuna will start the question in the 3rd chapter. You are talking about Karma Yoga and saying that Jnana is better than Karma Yoga. So why are you pushing me into Karma Yoga? That question is being asked by Arjuna in the 3rd chapter beginning.
Thank you, Binduji. So then these descriptions of this tortoise and all, so it's not like a process that the Sthita Prajna is following, right? Because he already has the Bodha kind of thing. So
No. That is the act in which Sthita Prajna is performing in the world. He is like a tortoise withdrawing. When it is not conducive for him, he withdraws from such a situations. He will act in the world only when it is conducive, that he doesn't get entangled into problems of the society. Then he will enter into what you call interaction with the society. But if there are so many places where the jnanis, having started the Gurukula and everything, they found that that has become a issue which is more getting them into trouble. So that is the time when they abandon that and they hand over that to the next in the students, this thing, and then they vanish from that Gurukula. They go to secluded place and take refuge in the Samyama.
okay, got it. So it is like how people like Janaka conducted their daily affairs or something like that, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it, Binduji. Thank you.
Since both Vinod and you are here, Srini, make this room live. And how you used to have the Jada and Chetana. Don't wait for me to be the only one who is giving answer. You should discuss common points also.
Sure.
Don't argue like how you argue in Jada Chetana.
Okay, Binduji. Yeah.
That will be a waste of time of all.
Yeah.
We need Jataveda.
Yeah, we need Jataveda for that. Ganesh Prasad is not able to come up. Somebody has to help him. He has been always trying to come up.
Actually tried.
I think he has to update his app, or tell him how to come up himself.
Yeah, it's actually Clubhouse problem, I think, Binduji, because previously when we click on our profile, we used to get accept speaker invite button, but Clubhouse removed it. So it doesn't work directly. There is no way of pulling people up, I think.
I think then he need to update his app, I think, in the mobile.
That will help actually. If Ganeshji can update.
Or else uninstall and then reinstall it, so that he get the latest app.
Yeah. I think that's a good option. Yeah.
Namaste, Revati.
Pranam, Binduji.
Pranam.
Pranam, everyone. Binduji, yesterday's shloka, Ragadvesha Viyuktaistu, there starts like Ragadvesha Viyuktai Ragasha Dveshascha. That there it starts like it is starting how the mumukshu or mumukshu starts to Ragadvesha, Tyaga of Ragadvesha.
Right.
Then he, after he is in this path, he will become the mumukshu. There, he will start the Vishayan Avarjaniyan. He will start to Charan Avarjaniyan Vishayan. Like that, that's the Nitya Naimittika karma. Then he will start the
Not
Avarjaniyam.
not only Nitya Naimittika karma, even the karma otherwise which may appear to be a karma of an ordinary person. Like for example, Srini was talking about the Janaka's life, no? He was ruling a kingdom, but he was a jnani. So he is Avarjaniyan because he is a king of the country. He has to do the ruling of the country. That is an Avarjaniyan karma for Janaka at that time. But there, he deploys the Ragadvesha Vivarjita. So when Ragadvesha is not used and at the same time he is doing his role as a king, he is doing it from an impartial point of view. And that impartiality is which makes him a king, a superior king, rather than a king who has got likes and dislikes. Then he may be, not be a justful king. So that is why it is, you need to have the Ragadvesha under control all the time, whether you are engaging in the world outside or you are going to be not engaging in the world. Your Ragadvesha should never be allowed to show up its head. So keep it always under Vicheda. Keep it under annihilation so that you don't fall prey for the Ragadvesha and make mistakes.
Yes, Vindoji, but at that time, while he is just a mumukshu, the little of the ahankara, ahankara and the chitta, those will work.
No, Ragadvesha, for Ragadvesha to function, it will be basically because of the ahankara. And for ahankara to function, you need the memories. But when you are using your intellect to sublimate the Ragadvesha with the knowledge of the Brahman or Atman, then your memories, you will know that has no role to play in that because your memories were all accumulated due to your Ragadvesha. If you didn't have any Ragadvesha, there would not have been any memory which we will be able to, recollect. All the recollection is based on what we created and the thing. That is what in some of the textbook they say, that is what the prarabdha, as if like a arrow left from the bow has natural tendency to keep going and hitting the target. So that cannot be controlled. Like that, the life will be continue till the death. That is a natural process. That is what it is told. But Advaita doesn't accept that because there is no prarabdha. He knows that very moment he is Atma, then there is no life at all. The prarabdha or the problems of anything of that nature, he doesn't take it as I am neither the doer nor the enjoyer. So there is no prarabdha playable there in that case. So Ragadvesha will try to come up because then that is the nature of the mind. Because the mind is the place where Ragadvesha is coming. But for Ragadvesha to appear, it needs feeding from the memory of what you like and what you don't like. That when it is removed due to the knowledge of that I am no more that one which had the likes and dislikes, but I am the pure self. that knowledge will make the memory entirely blank. And therefore, you will not have a position to have raga dvesha. But you have to keep on control, because mind can still generate a fresh raga dvesha if you do not have the mind under the knowledge of what is your true nature. That is why they is saying, sangat samjayate, chayado vishayan pumsa sangasteshu vajayate. That two shlokas is indicating for that even a jnani, if he doesn't control the mind with the knowledge of the self, that mind can start developing an attachment. And from attachment, you will develop a desire. From desire, you will have raga dvesha. That is to be avoided.
Yes, Indraji. When he is experiencing the avarjaniya, then after that the atma indriyani tahi atma vashe, the antakarana that will be atma vashya, as he will tell, the antakarana will act. That type of antakarana will become after the after Gahana Nididhyasana. Is it like that? Because here the first he will tell the mumukshu, then the atma indriyani taihi atmavashe. Then it will become the atmavashe.
Indriyani will be controlled by the intellect which is in knowledge of the self. That can happen only when the, anivarya actions. What are that? Anivarya actions means unavoidable actions, which are, the body is, till the body falls off, what the body will have to perform, like eating, sleeping, drinking, and, teaching, or if he is a king, he has to do the ruling of the king. If he is a Gurukula teacher, he has to teach the Gurukula and go for, collection for the running of the Gurukula, etc. These are all there, but he will not have a feeling of that I am the doer of these things. That is why Krishna later tells in the Gita saying, Nimitta matram bhava savyasajam. You should know that you are only an instrument. This body is only an instrument for the execution of those things which are happening, apparently happening, but you are not the body. So the body is being used for the purpose, just as the indriyas are being used for the sense organs. So naturally the indriyas will be looking for, eyes will be looking for vision, ear will be looking for auditory field input, like that. So these are all the indriyas. They will become under the control with the knowledge of the self, that I am the self, and these instruments are for their own purpose. The eyes can only see the vision, the ears can only hear the sound, etc. And that is not what I am. I am the one which is the witness in which these things apparently are happening. So what happens is that is the time you won't be in a position to develop likes and dislikes, because you are no more involved in the activity. And then those activities of the sense organs are nothing but appearances, or seems to be happening, but you are neither the doer nor the enjoyer of those things.
Yes, clear.
Thank you, Revati.
Thank you.
Namaste, Kuleshwar.
Namaskaram, Binduji. Namaskaram, Prakash.
Namaskaram.
Yeah, actually, from your last answer, I guess it was, I don't know whether I should ask the question, because it's a very basic level question, I feel. Good.
Go
Um,
ahead.
yeah. So I have a discussion with one of my friends a few weeks back, and so he was asking about the rebirth, described in Bhagavad Gita and in Advaita Vedanta also. Is there any correlation, or is it like two different views? And another thing is how this is related with the three shariras, like Karana, Sukshma, Sthula shariras, and how when we die, is it the Jiva or Atma? These terms are there, right? Like, I guess like the Atma is constant, and um, that what takes as a new birth is the Jiva. So these kinds of some word level confusions are there. What's happened? So can you shed some light how these things are working if there is a rebirth, so that we can conduct our karma in a nice way, so that, let's say, if someone is taking a rebirth, then they can minimize the suffering, right? Oh, I don't know, maybe this question is dumb, but just confused after the discussion.
It is not a dumb question, Nicholas, but I'll tell you, these are two different levels. What we call it as, from the transactional level or the empirical level, there is certain terminologies and explanations. But at the absolute level or the pure truth level, there is a statement. So first let me make that statement from the pure absolute truth level, is that all what you think, what you experience, or what you believe, they are all in the transactional world. The reality is that there is only consciousness or awareness or the knowing or knowledge aspect in which these transactional world and the transactional experiences appears to be happening. So what is that? The term for that consciousness or awareness is called Brahman or Atma in the Advaita. But if you don't coming to Advaita from the traditional background, we will call it as consciousness or awareness. And this consciousness or awareness is not the consciousness or awareness which we experience in our transactional world. That has to be kept always in mind, because the consciousness and awareness at the absolute level has no role of any doership or enjoyership. It is pure state, a state or the truth, which is known as truth only. There cannot be any way in which you can transact with it. But when we come to the transactional world, how can the transactional world come into existence if there is only that consciousness or the truth, which is the reality, which some people call it as Nirguna Brahman, and the transactional world is Saguna Brahman and the creation. I don't want to go into that word, but if you are not taking the words of the tradition, don't call it as Nirguna Brahman, but call it as pure consciousness. And the Saguna Brahman and the creation is called the consciousness or the awareness functioning through the mind, which is nothing but the same consciousness in association with a level of ignorance about its own nature. I am using the Advaitic explanation without the parampara words or the traditional words or the words which are not commonly used, so that it will be easier for everybody to understand. So when the same consciousness, when it do not realize its own true nature, we call it as ignorance or avidya or maya. Now don't get worried about the terms avidya and maya. That is for the people in the tradition. But for your purpose, you should understand it is a ignorance of your own true nature. When that mind do not know the mind's true nature, the mind starts imagining that it is a equipment in the physical body of a human being. Therefore, I am the human body or the human being. The moment you think that you are the human body and the human experience, then we need to explain to that person under ignorance how the whole thing is happened. The whole thing has happened because you do not know who you are. So try to know who you are. When you do not know how to find who you are, we will tell you how to do it. Simply, there are 2-3 methods. One method is, please negate all that is known as a content or an object of your knowledge, separate from you who is the knower. This is one method. You are the knower, or you are the awareness, or you are the consciousness, in which when contents are appearing, you feel experiences. So that experiencing and the content are one part of it, but you as the knower or the consciousness or awareness is not in any way undergoing change even when the knowing and the contents are changing. Therefore, you are unchangeable, eternal one. But including your body, you have known your body when you were a child. You are knowing yourself as an adult now or an old man now. But you as a knower has not undergone any change from the pure knowing aspect point of view. You are knowing yourself as a child is the same knowing you now knowing you as an adult or an old man. Therefore, you are the unchanging one. Everything else in the world has changed. Whatever you can remember from your memory to this thing. So what is that now you will think whether I have a birth and death and all those things, then what my knowing will stop? That question will come to you. But even before you started knowing and remembering about yourself, you were still living from the womb of the mother to the time you start remembering at the age of 6 or 7. So what do you call as living or by taking birth? Is it from things which you remember as who you are? Because somebody started calling you by name, you started identifying yourself as a boy or a girl or associated with a location, child of so and so and everything. Then you started developing memory. But before developing memory, you don't know whether you are alive or dead. So where will you take your birth as? When did you? Now you will say, I'll take my birth as because my parents told me I was born such and such a day at such and such a time. Okay, that is not your experience. Now you are taking that as a memory fed into your system by your parents. you are seeing similar one happening to your child or your brother or your sister, younger sister, or your neighbor, children and everything. So you develop a belief that, oh, birth and death are real because body is coming into existence and body is going from existence. From that aspect, there is a birth and death. But are you the body when you are asked? Because from the knower point of view, we saw that you are not the body. You are changing everything from your body changes. You are noticing, and the changes are known to you. So as a knower, you are not the body. So when the body is born and when the body is dead, how can you say you are born, you are dead? Only thing is that you are not knowing your birth and you are not knowing your death. Then the question will come, then who am I? If I am not doing these things, I am neither born or dead. It is my body which is born and my body which is dying. Then who am I? This is the time when that ignorance which is in the mind needs to be addressed to. To explain that, this aspect of the three aspects called the subtle, the Sukshma Sharira, Sthula Sharira, Karana Sharira are explained by the tradition. Now, if you look at the traditional method, they have brought in the story for you to get rid of your ignorance. The story per se is not real. It is for removing the ignorance. The story has been built, like bringing an x in a quadrilateral equation or a mathematical equation. When x becomes 0, the whole equation is solved, but at the same time x has no value. But x was brought in to solve the equation. Same way, the Karana Sharira, the Sthula Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira as a story is being brought by the methodology to educate who you are. Third, what is the Sthula Sharira? Your physical body, which you have seen growing, aging, decaying and dying. That is called the Sthula Sharira, which includes the world outside also. That also is changing, similar to your body. But what is the Sukshma Sharira then? The Sukshma Sharira is your emotions, feelings and thoughts, which cannot be seen by anybody else other than you. Your emotions, feelings and thoughts are yours. You can neither explain to anybody nor make anybody else experience that other than you. So it is called the subtle body within the gross body. Then, why did these two happen? For that, there must be some reason or some cause. And that cause is called the Karana or the causal body, where that body which is creating the subtle and the gross were present as a seed before they become subtle and gross. Now this is the place where it becomes slightly tricky. So what is that causal body? To explain that, they are bringing the three experiences of us, like waking, dream and deep sleep. In the waking, whatever we experience is called the Sthula or the gross body. What is experienced in the dream is Sukshma body, because you cannot share your dream with others, but at the same time you are experienced. So that is called the Sukshma Sharira. So then what is the Karana Sharira? So both were the Sukshma Sharira and Karana Sharira was in the seed form, but at the same time not knowing it was present is in the deep sleep. So in the deep sleep is called the causal body, where the seeds of the waking and the dream are present. And then the waker comes up from that the dreamless sleep, and the dream comes up from the same dreamless sleep. When it is going to the waking, it becomes the waker and the waking world. There you became the equalizer, and the world of in the gross body is experienced. Then when the same dreamless sleep projects into dream, the waker and the waker world is not being projected. It is the dreamer and the dream world which is being projected. That time that became reality, just as the waking was a reality in the waking, and the same way in the dream. One is gross, one is subtle. One is stula, one is sukshma. That's all. But both have come from the seed state of the karana sharira, of the deep sleep. But when you are looking into your knowledge aspect, you know that you had the waking experience, you had the dream experience, you have the deep sleep where you knew nothing. If the three are known, there must be something which is present in all the three. The waking, the dream, and the deep sleep. Then only that can be remembered. I dreamt, I slept, I am now in waking. All those things can be said. But if it is in the waking, that is not present in dream. What is in dream, it is not present in waking. And both are not present in the deep sleep. So who is the one who is knowing that these three things are happening? That must be something separate from the waker, dream, and deep sleep. And that entity is your true nature, which is beyond the waker, dream, and deep sleep. When this becomes a conviction in you, you know that I am beyond waker and dreamer and deep sleep. The waker, the dreamer, and the deep sleep are experiences of a consciousness or a awareness or a knowledge in which it is happening. And I am that awareness. I don't have a body. I don't have the grosser body. I don't have the subtle body. I don't have the causal body. I am beyond any body. But at the same time, I am not nobody. I am that which is beyond all the three. This knowledge, when it takes place, you don't need the story of the waking, dream, and deep sleep. Everything becomes similar to a dream, because in my consciousness, or in the consciousness which is my true nature, these three were appearances and becoming my experience. That minus was only present in the waking. The minus of the waker is not present in the dream and nor in the deep sleep. So even the individuality feeling is only for the waker. So none of them are real. That is why we call it as ignorance, but appearing to be real when it is being experienced, is similar to the appearance of ornaments, even when the ornaments have not undergone any change from the gold which it became the ornaments, or the mud which became the potteries, or the rope which is appearing as a snake when it is not seen properly, or the wateriness. In a desert, there is no water as a mirage. These are all the many examples which are, each one has got its own application. But these are all the examples which are used, that these are the rays in which we are experiencing our waking and dream and deep sleep. But who you are in reality is that consciousness alone. And there is no you, me, or anybody for the whole world. Because the whole world is only when I am in waking. So the whole world has come from that awareness. So there is no my awareness or your awareness which are separate. There is only one awareness. And that is why it is called Advaita. There is no duality for it, no two to it. This is the sum total of all your questions which you have asked me. So there is no birth, no rebirth. There is no body, no birth, no death, no rebirth, no Karana Sharira, no Sushma Sharira, no Stula Sharira. All of them are for the story to be known that there is nothing left. Everything was an imagination or appearance in the awareness. Hope you have got an idea.
Thank you, Binduji. But still, the question is when you explain those three states, and there is something constant which is witnessing those three states. Most of the people can understand this intellectually, the mental level. How can we, take that to the next level of understanding rather than the mental level? Because we have we are in the transaction reality, and we have this, dharmas like our duties, families, and desires, and a lot of things for most of the people. And there is this intellectual understanding. There is a continuous conflict can happen for some people, because in the mental level, you have this clarity that you are not the physical body, and or neither the mind, but that's in the intellectual level, not a crystal clear clarity, like not in experiential level, you can say. So how can we get that vidya or vijnana, the direct experience in between this transactional conflict in the daily life? Is there any way? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, for that, there is something called Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. That means you have to hear the explanations what are available for knowing the reality. When you know it, as you rightly said, as I was talking to Prakash also in the beginning, it will appear to be a conceptual at the intellectual level or the thinking level. But when you do an analysis of that, it is not something which you can apply externally and verify on your wife or a child or your mother or father. It has to be applied to yourself, because you are the experiencer of the waking, you are the experiencer of the dream, you are the experiencer of the deep sleep. So the analysis will have to go inward. And when you do this inward, the concept which was depending upon the waking will not be applicable if it had been in dream. What concepts you had, your family, your problem, your duties, dharma, karma, etc., all those things which were in the waker is not present in when you are dreaming. But the dream was as real as your waking when it was being experienced in the dream. You were chased by a lion, you ran and you fell. Thankfully, you fell from your cot and you realized you have become a waker. So you don't worry anymore about the dream's lion. Same way, the waking will never be worried when you know that both waking and dream are identical from experiential point of view. They are true only when it is being experienced. And you are beyond the waker and the dream. Then this will get out of the concept to become your conviction that I am neither the waker nor the dreamer. So all the problems of the waker will be there for the waker. But when you know in waking also that you are not the waker, but your true nature is this thing, these are all experiences which are coming. Let experiences play out in the way it is playing out, lest as the dream was happening and it happened and played out. I am no more in the dream. Same way the waking will play out and it will not be your problem anymore. This can happen and become a reality only if you are convinced 100% that you are not the waker, you are the consciousness in which it is being played out. So when that is the time when you will never will be in a state where you get into an issue about concept or not concept. But if you are not convinced, the concept will taunt you or haunt you, will not make you realize who you are. And then you cannot get out of the waker's problems. You will permanently stuck with the wakers and the waker problem. This is what we call the three problems of the waker. Ajnana, Samshaya, Viparya. Ajnana means ignorance. He is not knowing who he is. Even when he was told who he is having a doubt, Samshaya. Because he can't trust it. Is it not a concept? How can I believe it, you see? You can believe it. You don't have to believe it. Apply it to yourself and see whether it is true or not. When you are applying it to yourself and when you know it is true, then your doubt as well as ignorance is gone. But sometimes what happens when you are applying it, you may get into a wrong concept saying that, I need to do meditation, I need to do this, I have to do that. And some people will think that what I'm experiencing in my meditation is the reality. And things like that, so many other things are being used by such people. So what happens is that then you will never be able to stop this fairy tale and this what you call nonsense, what you are thinking about as a misconception, which we call it as viparya. When the three are removed totally, then only you are established in the truth. That is your experience. You need to work on that yourself and establish it yourself. Then you will not have any ignorance, any doubt or any misconception about it. Then nobody else can do anything on that.
Thank you, Bindoji. Yeah, it's clear. Yeah.
I think Deep Singh came and left, so.
And better he is not there.
Yes, yeah. So he was not on the platform for the right reason. So shall we close the room, Bindoji?
Yes, I think we should close the book.
Yes. Thanks everyone for coming and for coming up and asking questions and for participating. So this is a kind of a follow-up room that was suggested by Yash, and as Bindoji has pointed, Yash should have been here, but he's not here. Anyways, it was a very, very profound discussion again today, Bindoji. The shift from concept to fact and the Upanishadic pathway of confirmation or Bhagavad Gita is actually, so it does not become another concept. So thank you, Bindoji. And again, thanks everyone for coming, and we will reconvene on Sunday at 8:30 p.m. IST for an Advaita open discussion where you can have follow-up questions with Bindoji. Again, thank you very much, Bindoji. Over to you.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Srini, Revati, Vinod, Equalizer, and I think Teja. He was also there. He's gone.
Yes. Socrates.
Oh, thank you. And yes, Socrates. Yes. Thank you all there who have been listening patiently. See you tomorrow, not tomorrow, day after tomorrow for a general open discussion, followed by continuation of Bhagavad Gita on Monday. Hari Om. Good night.
Good night. Hari Om.
Ayom.
Hari.